Welcome to today's workshop. We are running Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman through AI. Kahneman spent decades researching how the human mind actually makes decisions, not how we think we decide, but how we really decide. His work with Amos Tversky won the Nobel Prize in economics and fundamentally changed how we understand judgment, risk, and choice. The core insight is this: your mind runs on two systems. One is fast, automatic, and often wrong. The other is slow, deliberate, and lazy. The interplay between them shapes every decision you make. Today, you are going to take 5 of Kahneman's most powerful ideas and actually apply them to your work as using AI. 5 ideas, 5 AI workflows, 1 personalized thinking, fast and slow action plan you can use starting today. On the right side of the screen, you can see what's inside. System 1 and System 2, the anchoring effect, loss aversion, the planning fallacy, and what you see is all there is. By the end of this workshop, you will have a personalized action plan for making better decisions, a framework built from your own situations, your own blind spots, your own commitments. Let's get into it. Here is how this workshop works. It is designed to run with any AI assistant, Chat, GPT, Claude, or Gemini. For each idea, you follow 3 steps. Learn the concept. This takes about 15 minutes. Copy the learn prompt into your AI tool. Explore the framework. Ask questions until you understand it. Apply it to your situation. This takes about 25 minutes. The AI becomes your coach and walks you through a guided exercise. At the end, it produces a short artifact you will use later. Reflect on what you discovered. 5 minutes. The AI challenges your thinking, then sharpens your takeaway. You can run this solo or facilitate it as a group workshop. The total time investment is about 2 to 3 hours. And at the end, you combine all 5 artifacts into your personalized thinking, fast and slow action plan. Let's start with idea 1. Idea 1, System 1 and System 2. Kahneman divides the mind into 2 agents. System 1 operates automatically, fast, with almost no effort. It reads emotions, it recognizes patterns, it jumps to conclusions. System 2 is the opposite. It is slow, deliberate, and it handles the hard thinking. But here is the problem. System 2 is lazy. It would rather endorse whatever System 1 suggests than do the work of checking it. This is not a metaphor. Kahneman proved it with decades of experiments. The bat and ball problem is the classic example. A bat and a ball cost $1.10. The bat costs $1 more than the ball. How much does the ball cost? Most people say 10 cents. That is System 1 talking. The real answer is 5 cents. And System 2 did not bother to check. As Kahneman says, a reliable way to make people believe in falsehoods is frequent repetition, because familiarity is not easily distinguished from truth. System 1 does not keep track of the way it learned something. It just knows. On the right side, you can see the 3 tabs: learn, apply, reflect. Let me walk you through each one. The Learn tab teaches you the System 1 and System 2 framework before you apply it. It covers how System 1 generates impressions and intuitions automatically, why System 2 is the lazy controller, and how cognitive ease makes us less vigilant. Copy this prompt into your AI tool. Have a real conversation with it. Ask questions. Go deep. When you understand the concepts, come back and move to the Apply tab. The Apply tab is where you build your actual output. The AI takes the role of a cognitive decision-making coach and guides you through an honest audit of how your 2 systems interact in real decisions. You will map which system drives your key decisions, identify where System 1 is substituting easy questions for hard ones, and build personal operating rules for when to trust intuition versus when to force analysis. At the end, the AI captures your output as a titled artifact. This becomes one piece of your final action plan. The Reflect tab challenges your thinking. It asks where you are most confident but least justified, and where System 2 has been asleep at the wheel on your most important decisions. Be honest with yourself. That is where the growth happens. When you are done, move to Idea 2. Idea 2, the anchoring effect. Kahneman and Tversky discovered that when people estimate an unknown value, their judgment is powerfully shaped by whatever number they saw first, even if that number is completely irrelevant. In the famous experiment, they rigged a wheel of fortune to land on either 10 or 65. Then they asked people to estimate the percentage of African nations in the United Nations. The group that saw 10 on the wheel guessed 25%. The group that saw 65 guessed 45%. A random number from a carnival wheel shifted serious judgments by 20 points. The anchoring index shows we get dragged roughly 50% toward whatever anchor is on the table. This affects every negotiation you enter, every budget you set, every forecast you make. And here is what makes it dangerous. As Kahneman says, you should assume that any number that is on the table has had an anchoring effect on you. And if the stakes are high, you should mobilize yourself to combat the effect. Knowing about anchoring does not make you immune. You need a system. On the right side, learn, apply, reflect. Let me walk you through each one. The Learn tab teaches you the anchoring effect framework. It covers how anchoring works at a cognitive level, why even irrelevant numbers shift serious judgments, and what the anchoring index tells us about how vulnerable we really are. Copy this prompt into your AI tool. Explore the framework. Ask questions until it clicks. When you understand the concepts, come back and move to the Apply tab. The Apply tab is where you build your actual output. The AI guides you through detecting anchors in your recent decisions, auditing your current negotiations and forecasts for hidden anchors, and building counter-anchoring strategies. You will also learn to set anchors intentionally and ethically in your own proposals and presentations. At the end, the AI captures your output as a titled artifact. This becomes one piece of your final action plan. The Reflect tab challenges your thinking. It asks where you are still underestimating how much anchors affect you and what number is sitting in your head right now that you should be questioning. Be honest with yourself. That is where the growth happens. When you are done, move to Idea 3. Idea 3, Loss Aversion. This is the work that won the Nobel Prize. Kahneman and Tversky's prospect theory overturned the assumption that people are rational about gains and losses. They proved that losses loom roughly twice as large as equivalent gains. Losing $100 feels about as bad as gaining $200 feels good. This asymmetry distorts everything. We hold losing investments too long. We avoid necessary changes because the potential loss feels bigger than the potential gain. We choose certain mediocrity over uncertain improvement. The endowment effect is a direct consequence. Once you own something, a strategy, a role, a belief, you overvalue it simply because it is yours. People demand twice as much to give something up as they would pay to get it, as Kahneman says. The concept of loss aversion is certainly the most significant contribution of psychology to behavioral economics. Losses loom larger than gains. Loss aversion is not a weakness to eliminate. It is a feature of how the mind works that must be managed. On the right side, learn, apply, reflect. The Learn tab teaches you prospect theory and loss aversion. It covers the 2-to-1 loss-gain ratio, the endowment effect and why you overvalue what you already own, and status quo bias and why the default option always wins. Copy this prompt into your AI tool. Explore the framework deeply. When you understand the concepts, come back and move to the Apply tab. The Apply tab is where you build your actual output. The AI guides you through a loss aversion audit, identifying where fear of loss is distorting your decisions, what you are holding on to that you would not choose if starting fresh, and running a pre-mortem on your most important current decision. You will build a 4-question decision protocol for catching loss aversion before it catches you. At the end, the AI captures your output as a titled artifact. This becomes one piece of your final action plan. The Reflect tab challenges your thinking. It asks where you are choosing certain mediocrity over uncertain improvement and what you would do differently if you could guarantee no losses. Be honest with yourself. That is where the growth happens. When you are done, move to Idea 4. Idea 4, the planning fallacy. People systematically underestimate the time, cost, and risk of future actions, while overestimating the benefits. Kahneman calls this the planning fallacy, and he proved it on himself. His team was writing a textbook. They estimated it would take 2 years. A colleague who had studied similar projects told them the base rate was 7 to 10 years. They ignored him. It took 8 years. Even knowing about the bias did not protect them. The problem is what Kahneman calls the inside view. You focus on the unique details of your plan and ignore what happened when others tried something similar. The outside view asks a different question. How long do projects like this actually take? The answer is almost always longer, more expensive, and riskier than your plan suggests. The Sydney Opera House was budgeted at $7 million. It took 16 years and $102 million, as Kahneman says. The prevalent tendency to underweight or ignore distributional information is perhaps the major source of error in forecasting. On the right side, learn, apply, reflect. The Learn tab teaches you the planning fallacy and reference class forecasting. It covers the inside view versus the outside view, why even experts fall victim to optimistic bias, and how to use base rates instead of stories to forecast accurately. Copy this prompt into your AI tool. Explore the framework. When you understand the concept, come back and move to the Apply tab. The Apply tab is where you build your actual output. The AI guides you through diagnosing your planning accuracy, comparing your past estimates to actual results, identifying where you are using the inside view, and building a revised forecast using reference class data. You will also run a pre-mortem on your most important current project. At the end, the AI captures your output as a titled artifact. This becomes one piece of your final action plan. The Reflect tab challenges your thinking. It asks whether you will actually use the realistic estimate or quietly revert to the optimistic one because it feels right. Be honest with yourself. That is where the growth happens. When you are done, move to Idea 5. Idea 5, what you see is all there is. Kahneman calls it WYSIATI. This is the mind's most dangerous habit. System 1 builds the best possible story from whatever limited information is available, and it never asks what is missing. The less you know, the easier it is to construct a confident narrative, and that confidence feels like evidence, even when it is not. This explains overconfidence. It explains framing effects. It explains why leaders make bold decisions based on thin evidence. The coherence of the story matters more to the mind than the completeness of the data. Kahneman found that when people say they are 90% sure, they are right about 70% of the time. Our confidence is systematically inflated because we never see what we are not seeing. As Kahneman says, it is the consistency of the information that matters for a good story, not its completeness. Indeed, you will often find that knowing little makes it easier to fit everything you know into a coherent pattern. On the right side, learn, apply, reflect. The Learn tab teaches you the WYSIATI framework. It covers how System 1 builds stories from incomplete data, why confidence reflects coherence rather than completeness, and how framing determines which information you see and which disappears. Copy this prompt into your AI tool. This one gets personal. Go deep. When you understand the concepts, come back and move to the Apply tab. The Apply tab is where you build your actual output. The AI guides you through a missing evidence audit, identifying the gaps in your current confident beliefs. You will calibrate your confidence levels, check how framing is shaping your decisions, and conduct a disconfirmation hunt for your most important strategy. This is often the most uncomfortable exercise in the workshop. That discomfort is the point. At the end, the AI captures your output as a titled artifact. This becomes the final piece of your action plan. The Reflect tab challenges your thinking one last time. It asks where you are most dangerously ignorant right now and most sure of yourself. Where does your confidence go up precisely when your evidence gets thinner? Be honest with yourself. This is the exercise that separates good decisions from great ones. When you are done, you have completed all 5 ideas. Scroll down to build your final action plan. You have now completed all 5 ideas. It is time to bring everything together. You have 5 artifacts, your System 1 and System 2 operating rules, your anchoring defense system, your loss aversion reality check, your planning fallacy defense, and your WYSIATI blind spot map. Combine them into your personalized thinking fast and slow action plan. This is not a summary of the book. This is a decision-making framework built from your own situations, your own blind spots, your own commitments. Copy all 5 artifacts into your AI tool and ask it to synthesize them into one cohesive action plan. Look for the patterns across all 5. Where are the same biases showing up in different decisions? Where is one fix going to improve multiple areas? This is your system for making better decisions, not in theory, in practice. Let's recap what you built today. You learned how System 1 and System 2 interact and built operating rules for when to trust intuition and when to slow down. You mapped the anchors affecting your decisions and designed counter-anchoring strategies. You audited where loss aversion is keeping you stuck and built a 4-question decision protocol. You diagnosed your planning accuracy and created realistic forecasts using base rates. And you identified where WYSIATI is making you confidently wrong and built a defense checklist, 5 frameworks, 5 artifacts, 1 personalized action plan. Kahneman spent a lifetime proving that the human mind is not the rational machine we think it is. But he also showed that with the right systems, with the right question, you can make significantly better decisions. You now have those systems, use them. This workshop is one of 375 in your Run It For Me library. Each one follows the same format. Pick a book, run the ideas through AI, build something real. If you want access to all 375 workshops, plus the Executive AI OS Bootcamp that teaches you how to integrate AI into your daily leadership workflow, we have a bundle. The bootcamp alone is $2,800. The corporate license alone is $999. This bundle is both for $999. That is the corporate Run It For Me license plus the Executive AI OS Bootcamp for $999 total. Go to runitfor.me to grab it. Offer ends March 31st. Thank you for running this workshop. I will see you in the next one.